bear with me. I always buy goobers. But tonight, I didn't eat the goobers. I bought it out of kind of like habit. Following a routine. But I'm pretty pleased with myself for not eating it because it was past my window to eat while I'm doing this intermittent fasting regimen. I call it. Boom. So of course, I went back to my favorite theater, Cinema Village, and I caught the 11 o'clock movie of The Night Clerk. And it stars one of my kind of maybe new people that I'm gonna be looking out for, and that's Tay Sheridan. He's a young actor. He stars in this movie along with Helen Hunt, and she's the one who has the face that looks like Odo from Deep Space Nine. And I say that respectfully. She's still a beautiful woman. I didn't know Odo was as attractive as he is, and I say that respectfully. And we also have John Leguizamo, and we also have this woman. Her name is Anna. She's a Spaniard woman. She's gonna be in the new James Bond movie, and she was in with Harrison Ford, Blade Runner 2, and where else? She's done a lot of stuff. I'm not 100% familiar with her, but I thought she did really good. All the acting in this movie was spot on. John Leguizamo's character was really good. I wound up checking out his bio after seeing this movie. And I've been to all of John, except for the first one. I didn't go to the first one where he was his one-man shows, but I've been to all his other one-man shows here in New York. And it's interesting to see his bio. He's Colombian now, when he used to be Puerto Rican. Now, John Leguizamo was Colombian, and that's what his father, I remember saying something about his father was like revealing that he was never Puerto Rican, he was always Colombian. And I just think that's hilarious how you can just evolve. And it reminds me also of what Nikolai Tolstoy said, and that history would be great if only it were true. So I digress from that. So this movie opens up where you're seeing a mother, and it's Helen Hunt's character, and she put her acting chops down once again. And I just saw a movie with her not so long ago, a couple of months ago. And let me just say, despite the fact that she looks like Odo from Deep Space Nine, she is an amazing actor. And I give her credit because every time I see her, especially as of late, she's spot on, right on point, every single time. And, you know, when you think about what's going on in America with parents and mothers, and how mothers are, you know how mothers are allowing their children to have parties in the house where they're doing drugs and they're having sex, and the parents are coddling their children, and you see parents that are allowing them to allow their boyfriends and their girlfriends to move in, and you know, they're doing so much stuff like spending 200 grand so that they can have an education under the table, spending upwards to $250,000, $300,000 so their child can have the college experience and then graduate with honors and live an amazing life. And this character is what she played. She played that mother that would do anything and everything for their children. But not in just a way that is nurturing and loving and caring and concerning, in a way that's like almost sick and disturbing, and almost, it's so privileged and so masochist that you find yourself not hating her, but you can see, you see that person, and you know that person. You might not be that person, but you kind of understand that person, and you know of this person. And even though this person is a villain in your mind, you can't hate the person. You just can't. Because it taps into something that you might even feel a little jealous about, because you know your mother would never do that for you. And you know that this is not just some sort of story, a Hollywood story that's being told about a mother who is enabling her child. This is a mother who could never be like the mother you had. And it's reminiscent of like just everything that we see when it comes to just what a mother's willing to do for her children. And they never talk about the father in this movie, I don't believe. They didn't tap into any of that. There was a small part, I think, when she had this moment with her son. She's sitting in the bed. He's very, very depressed. This is the Bart character, the main character, Tay. His name is Bart in the movie. And Bart, she's trying to explain to him, like, when his father left, how she still had to get up and go to work and take care of him. She still had to, you know, pick herself up off the floor of depression, of whatever it is that they were going through. She just couldn't just not, you know, she had to recognize the pain and just understand that she just couldn't just not move forward. You know, this was like a moment that they had in the bedroom, which I almost tuned it out a little bit, I have to be honest. But there was a lot going on in that movie at that point that it was hard to concentrate, not because she wasn't spot on and not because of the words on the page that she was pushing through, but because there was so much going on with the movie that you were like, whoa, what's about to happen right now? And I like that. This movie is very suspenseful. It does not end the way you think it's going to end, or happen the way you think it's going to happen. The obvious that you think is obvious is not as obvious, but yet it is. And this taps into, this movie basically, for me, makes you want to, well, it makes me think about humanity and our ability to our self-preservation. Despite what you might think of a person, at the end of the day, this person wants to survive. This person wants to see another day. And when a person is sitting, all right, let me go back to kind of not the beginning, but we realized very, very early on that this young man, Bart, is autistic. He's autistic in a way where he can work, he can hold on a job, and he can drive a car, he can get a license. He's just socially inept, and he cannot. And it reminded me of some sort of weird thought that I had, and I've actually pondered on this thought. And this movie was able to help me not be right about the thought that I had. And the thought that I had was a pretty effed up kind of a thought. And this was years ago. But I play around with the thought every once in a while. And that was that people with autism come across soulless. They come across as this blank, unable to get it, almost like AI. I looked at autism as that AI computer, that Siri, that Alexa, those devices that are trying to help you with all this information, but in reality, they're really listening to everything you say, everything you do. And the reason why they're listening to everything you say and do is not to necessarily trap you or to conspire to take over, or maybe like have like martial law and incriminate everyone. But it's Alexa and these devices are there listening because the AI is trying to obtain humanity's soul. It's trying to gravitate to the nuances of humanity in a way that it knows it never can. And I always found that with autism and the people that I've met who have autism or are autistic on some sort of spectrum. I don't know the spectrum. I don't know the technical terms. I'm not able to speak other than from my experience. And I would say that I do have experience because I have a younger brother who is autistic, who has that monochromatic room, who actually stays in the room, you know, and doesn't leave, and has his own world and his own space. And when he speaks the truth, and he doesn't hesitate to tell you how he feels in a way that can be hurtful. And when studying my brother and studying others, I always felt like there's this soulless thing that's missing from people that might have Asperger's and who are autistic. And this character in the movie has Asperger's, is autistic, and comes across like he's trying to mimic and he's trying to understand the nuances of humanity. He's, first of all, he's spying on the hotel guests in the hotel that he is doing the night shift. So he's working the night shift at the hotel and rarely gets to see people. But what he's doing is he's secretly recording at least 5 angles in each hotel room with wireless feeds and with SIM card. No, with wireless feeds and with memory cards. Like, you know, 120 gig memory cards. He's recording everything, even when he's not there. And it comes across very creepy. The first thing you think about is, Jesus Christ, this could be my hotel room. This could be happening to me. I remember there was like a Baldwin brother that did a movie that was similar to that, but not as rated R, not as raunchy and filled with sex and all that kind of stuff. This movie wasn't that. This wasn't a voyeuristic movie. This was a movie of deception. Not that voyeurism isn't deception, but voyeurism comes across more sexual. This wasn't about sex. This was about trying to just be able to talk to a person and get the joke and be on time with your thought and not overspeak every single thought you have. And when asked a question, Bart would give you the Wikipedia answer. And then, you know, the part where you click read more, you have to click it and then it gives you more. He actually says the words read more. And then when he gets to the end of what he's saying, he actually would say the words read less. So his mind is some sort of photographic memory that's unable to put the commas and the periods and the exclamation points necessary and then wrap that around with the proper eye contact and knowing when to shut up. He doesn't know when to do that. And he's driving like a 1974, 1975, 1976 Chevy Nova 4-door. And I remember these cars. They were all over my neighborhood. These are very poor cars. And we have a young man in his early 20s on his way to work. He drives an old 1970 car. He actually has his own space, separate from his mother, but yet his mother still makes him dinner. And she knows that her son is watching her on closed-circuit television, and she communicates through the cameras. And they have a separate life, one in which there are no touching, there's no intimacy. But whenever there is intimacy, whenever there is touching, he rests his head in a very humble, subservient way, and she'll run her hands through his head. And was it a little edible? Yes, it was. You know, it was very much that. But I digress from that, but it registers quickly in your mind. What is mom truly willing to do? And I would say just about anything. Even that, yes, I said it. She would be willing to go there for her son. And that's not because I am fixated with the idea of, you know, having every moment between man and woman end up like some sort of Pornhub site. But it came across like she was willing to do that. She was a mom that was willing to do whatever it took to make her son happy, to make him feel whole, to make him like there was none of that. There was not a lot of pushback. So, one of the people in the room, you see, and I found this interesting that a woman shows up to the room, to the hotel, to get a room, one in which there was a reservation. And the last second, he changed the room on her. And I thought about that for a while. It's like you meet a person who appears that they can't lie, who appears that they're unable to lie, who appears that they're so different and they're so abstract in their social inabilities that they come across a little more trusting maybe, or I don't know. But he changed the room. In the very last second, he gave her a room that was right next door to another room, adjacent to another room, in which she has this confrontation with this man. And we're not aware of who the man is, but it was quickly understood that she knew the man and that she was able to intercept some sort of text messaging and canceled on the woman that was supposed to be there. So it's like the wife showing up to where the mistress would be. And then while he's home watching this on his screens through like some sort of closed circuit or some sort of Wi-Fi, he's watching this in real time from his home in his basement area of the home, which didn't really look like a basement, but yet it did look like a basement. They just threw some 2x4. It was a total set. It wasn't a basement. They threw some staircase to make it look like something was coming down. It was good. It was a good, low budget, intimate field, the set, threw some 2x4s up, and they painted what appeared to be cinder block to give it the basement feel. But in between that being a basement, he had the perfectly, military style bed. It's not military style, but perfectly, everything was in its perfect spot. No clutter, no mess. All the colors were all the same. And that fit from what I know of Asperger's and, things like that. So, also, and then he has these 6 TV screens. And he sits in front of these 6 screens. And it's 5 of them that are... 5 are recording, I guess, from in the room. And then one of them is, I believe, live. And he realizes that this really hot chick that went to this hotel room, who's meeting up with this guy, is in danger. So he totally freaks out. He jumps in his car, and now he's trying to save her. But we have to remember that he can't really save her because it's not like he can call the cops. And what is he going to tell the cops? I'm watching something that I posted that I am obtaining illegally. And what happens is that the woman is shot and killed. And because she's shot and killed, he becomes a suspect. And John Leguizamo's character shows up. And John Leguizamo's character is like, he's a cop. He's a detective. He pays close attention. He's like a Columbo kind of a character. And his character was pretty good. I have to admit, he was spot on. He was believable. He looked so much like, what is this guy from City Slickers that wears the Yankee hats all the time? He looks so much like this guy. It was like, wow. John Leguizamo was turning into Bill. What is the guy's name? It doesn't matter. And I have to say that despite him looking like this guy, it didn't matter. He did a great job. He played a real good role of a cop. Every single thing you say to a police officer can and will be used against you. And he was trying with this young man. And the mother came to the station and she was like flipping out. My son, you gotta be a scene attorney. She did right. So, he really couldn't talk to the son, but yet he still had him as like, his number one suspect. We got a kid sitting in a room who's supposed to be off work and then decides to come back to work to pick up a wallet. And then, the kid was like giving him so much information of where he was and what he was doing. And then he goes, well, that doesn't make sense because how could you have paid for the ice cream if you left your wallet at work? It was a good scene. Oh, it was such a great scene. So then he starts to kind of watch the kid. And in between watching this kid, he meets this young woman. This is the Spaniard chick, Anna. Is her real name. I can't remember her name at the moment from the movie, but this Spaniard woman, when she first shows up, her eyes are just puffy. She looks like she's been crying. She looked a little older than she was because the very next scene, her eyes were perfect, like total, all the puffiness around her eyes went down. I don't know if she put on a cold pack or this was like days later. Maybe the first scene was shot a couple of weeks before the rest of the movie. I'm not sure, but her eyes looked so much better than the first scene when we first are introduced to this very attractive woman with a very husky Spaniard accent. And this Spaniard accent was so sexy and so husky, and she was attractive, and she starts to in some weird way seduce this young man. And they wanted us to believe for a moment that the reason why she was so into this guy is because she had a brother who suffered the same thing, which was what? We don't know. Some sort of mental illness she referred to it as, or my brother was like you. So I immediately was thinking, why are you flirting with this young man? It didn't make sense to me. Why is this attractive woman flirting with this young man? And knowingly, like, a woman knows her power. And I was just like, I think I started hating a little bit. I was just like, no way would this hot chick flirt with this guy. She recognizes her power, and then he bumps into her at some sort of like coffee shop or some sort of little deli, and she's buying coffee for the room, and then he's explaining how the coffee in the room, and he goes through all this long explanation, and then, you know, she's acting like it's cute. She's acting like, you know, because of my brother, I understand you, and I want to be your friend. And it's not normal, and it didn't look real. It looked like, what the F is going on here? Is this director trying to have me believe that this hot chick with this sexy, smoky accent is going to be after or be interested in this guy, and they trying to throw in her brother as a way for us to believe that she has some sort of empathy or she can relate to him in some kind of way? And I was just like, this is no way. Because I was immediately thinking, because of her brother, she would know even more quickly how to be very, very careful with how you flirt with people who are obviously probably never got any cookie, never been there before. So I didn't like that, and I just felt like that wasn't cool. But then you find out that the whole talking to him is all directly linked with the murder. The murder that happened in that room. This young lady, oh, and mind you, he's been moved to a different hotel because they were like, listen, let's just move you to another hotel. You know, because of this whole murder situation, the hotel moved him. So I was just like, so that's where he meets the girl. He meets the girl at the second hotel. And he falls head over heels for her. This guy goes and buys a new car, cuts his hair, puts on a suit. And all of this is just from a casual meeting at the hotel, where she tells the guy that she needs a light for her cigarette, which she had a lighter for her cigarette. And then you start to believe, or they want you to believe, that this woman just needs a lighter for her cigarette. So she has a lighter, but yet she wanted some company. So what she does is she goes to him and she's flirting with him, and she gets a light. Next thing you know, she goes jumping in the pool, and then he goes to the pool to let her know that there's no lifeguards here. And next thing you know, they have this really intimate moment where he is doing the same exact move that he does with his mother, which is he submits and bows his head down to her so she can play in his hair, and then he puts his head on her lap. So he treated the woman that he was falling in love with the same exact way he treated his mother. Hence, me feeling that his mother would do anything to keep him, including relieve him, if you know what I mean. So we realized very, very quickly that he realizes that the man that was in that room was also the man that's in her room because she's with a married man. So we find out, and I say to myself this: they had to put a Latin woman with an accent to play her role, because had they put an American doing her role, we would have hated her. We would have thought she was just some married woman. I mean, she's a home wrecker. She's a skank and a slut and a whore. And we'd have never felt anything for her. But because she had this Latin accent, it reminded me of, like, when I was a kid coming up, there was this whole thing that I remember being told that, you know, you could get you a Puerto Rican woman in her 30s. Mind you, I'm like 15 years old. And I'm being told this by guys. You know, guys are just sitting around talking like, yo, get you a Puerto Rican woman in their 30s. Yo, they teach you everything you need to know. You know, so I thought about that. I was like, oh, she's like portraying like one of those Latin women that are just so vulnerable, but you know, deep down they're kind of sinister and they want to turn out young boys. And it came across like that. Like, this is a woman who's trying to turn out a young boy and get over on it. But then we find out it's nothing like that. And then what we also find out is that this guy, Bart, is very, very calculated and not very dumb, very, very smart, and has that ability for self-preservation, because we find out that he's willing to, he doesn't go by the book, because he gave the woman a better room, the woman who was killed. He gave her a better room. So that means that he is able and capable of changing his mind. And then he's he's sinister and calculated enough to know that the cameras in the room could get him in trouble, because while the cops were on their way, he tries to retrieve all the memory cards from out of the room. So that self-preservation is real. He really wanted to not get caught. And there's this huge tug of war between him and John Leguizamo's character. And then there's another, tug of war between the mom and him. And before we know it, we're in this huge apex of suspense. And the movie ends nicely. And I do recommend this movie. If you get an opportunity to see this movie on whatever platform you're going to see it, I say see Helen Hunt acting her butt off. Despite the fact that there could be any issues with her appearance, forget about that. That is a look of a lot of women out there. And she has a niche. And I would like to continue to see her playing and acting and doing these roles, because she has what it takes to continue doing what she's doing and be successful at it. And the young man, Tay, kudos to him. Very good job. When he sat at the kitchen table with his mother, and the way his posture was at that table was exactly the way my younger brother was. And when I say younger brother, the guy's like 30 years old now. So, maybe 27 or something like that. But that posture, the way he sat at the kitchen table, spot on. The way he was able to sarcastically speak with the officer when it came to how would he be a suspect and what would he have done to, do these things. That was really spot on. His acting was top notch. And we have John Leguizamo's character, who played a really good detective cop who was not necessarily trying to get to the bottom of it, but wanted to follow his lead, and it was simplicity. It was just like, the simplest answer is the answer, and this is the simplest one. I don't need to make it complicated. He did a great job. And now we have Anna. She also did really good. I think the director, kudos to him to getting a Latin character to play her role. Had he not done that, the role would have definitely been really, really washed down, and the movie would have really felt flat. So with that being said, I would give it 2 thumbs up. I would give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. And I would give it a 7 out of 10. It was a good movie. You should go see it. You should check out the ending. It's totally worth it. Thank you for showing up to another review. Here we go. Boom. I enjoyed it. And of course, I'm not going to take you to the last page of the book. You're going to have to do that yourself.